This video is intended to describe a light-tech stationary pyramidal mainframe named Equilibrium. So joining me today will be many aspects that will be utilized to assist in this very thorough, comprehensive, long-winded dissertation, unavoidably so. Starting off with my stick figure chakra map, whimsically drafted of course, to serve as illustrative guide for the extensive tour before us in this situation, as well as a book from Mr. Stephen A. Ross, the Wonderful Wizard of Sedona, describing the implementation of love currency augmentations, and as well as an example of a incandescent candelabra-based bulb that is quite crucial in the intended function. So obviously there'll be many digressions to keep it all straight in a linear, coherent fashion, and I will do my best to maintain my sensibility in thorough linear dissertations starting now. So, I feel it's quite prudent to discuss the overview of the construct before the extensive cataloging of all the individual crystals seen here, which I shall do now. So obviously, this entire crystalline apparatus has been built on the shape of a Himalayan salt lamp pyramidal lamp. Unavoidable to repeat myself at times, obviously. And so the big aspect of why that's such a crucial part of the foundation of this construct is for the purpose of the salt being heated up, most importantly by an incandescent bulb to actually generate the heat to produce the negative ion purification emanation that is quite crucial in the successful consistent charging and purification of the extensive crystalline output ratio of this entire closed-loop reactive circuit developed on crystalline and wire technology, with some wood in there as well. That's why I circle back as a preface is that having the incandescent is quite crucial opposed to LED, which may illuminate the apparatus, but yet it's not producing the intended function's capacity potential. By actually generating the heat from the classic incandescent bulb is what's quite crucial in continually purifying the output of the emanation. Hence, I'm making a point to repeat myself to thoroughly impress the importance of the fact of incandescent bulbs being quite crucial for the intended function of this device. So moving on a little bit, so of course the aspect too of this pyramidal mainframe is based on the 4 terrestrial elements seen in heavy crystalline concentration ratio power packs, such as earth, fire, water, wind, of the, once again, 4 terrestrial elements, with ether or love being the conjoining feature towards the bottom, which would be a heavy concentration of the pink ray in crystalline composition emanation. And of course, I will get into each of these things individually. I'm just doing my best to be very diligent with a decent preliminary overview before the deep dive of each of these compositions. And all of these 4 power packs are affixed to something called the transmutation ratio, which is a combination of hematite and smoky quartz to work as a foundational scaffolding that is tremendously encouraging to actually ground the energy into reality to make the magic real, quite simply, and be its own high-yield purification ratio apparatus, which I guess I'll discuss now before I go further. So the aspect of the hematite makes for an iron-based wrapped mineral that is very effective for grounding all excess radial energy, firmly grounding the energy through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth meridian matrix for processing, in tandem with smoky quartz providing the same energetic stimulation function to the auric field to rapidly encourage composting of energy into the earth for transmutation. Hence the name is implied by the archetypal designation, so that therefore serves as a perfect foundation to, of course, encourage rapid grounding of the entire apparatus's exotic range, as well as be its own way to encourage the tangibility of this magic entering the earth plane through, once again, like I digressed upon, or repeat myself once again, is transmutation by rapid etheric dialysis in the earth for absolute rapid retransmutation process. That's very discouraging for negativity to maintain inside the field, as well as external bombardments to stick to the field, as well as a rapid reroute bypass, quite simply. Hence, the foundation of the transmutation scaffolding is quite critical, and hence I'm taking the time to really do the crystalline dissertation there before I do the further overview. And that's exactly why these 4 power packs of, once again, earth, fire, water, and wind have been affixed to the apex band of the transmutation ratio, seen right here on both a silver and brass configuration to serve as a input-output yin-yang frequency balance of exactly the same ratio for maximum circulation of the grounding, purification, transmutation. Okay, so that's just the foundational band for the transmutation ratio, but I'll get back to the overview dissertation now. But that's just, it's so prudent, so critical that, of course, it always elicits the necessity of thorough dissertation as a foundation for everything else is discussed, because it's quite the crucial contingency. Okay, so moving back on. So with this very exotic crystalline composition being consistently purified by the emanation comes a very critical feature before I discuss anything else, which is this intentional design right here. So this primary wire, consisting of copper, brass, and silver, has been spooled together via drill, seen through the entire apparatus as a common ground or the main vein of the construct, which is a great way to carry energy very evenly based on the aspects of silver being a lovely soothing intake yin, while brass is a combination of copper and zinc smelted together to be very much a yang metal and an earthy tone, with copper being a fantastic earth bandwidth grounder diffuser, a very high frequency resonator carrier as well as copper, of course. So that's exactly why these extra tails have been intentionally left installed to have very easy accessibility for wherever is needed here. See, for example, so of course this is all clipped to the very central primary wire that is the foundation of the transmutation scaffolding, so everything of course is in a closed reactive circuit. And the aspect of why this is absolutely crucial is to be discussed right now. So this alligator clip clipped into the primary wire is on a cord that goes all the way into a banana clip that goes into an outlet ground seen right here, which is of the absolute essence for its intended functionality purpose of this construct. So, of course, before I discuss anything else in the composition that's quite vast, it's the aspect of the rapid purification keeps the entire crystalline sequence at peak efficiency charge and basically purified emanation at wide open throttle as consistent as a light bulb heating salt to charge the apparatus, then of course taking that apparatus and successfully grounding it into a space, place, for example, a house, a clinic, an event center, as an example, then running that energy into the ground of the house is quite crucial for this purpose right here, is that if a building or space or place is indeed up to code of modern electrical engineering, all these outlets must be conjoined to a common ground copper rod of large scale, oftentimes 8 feet or so, of a copper rod driven into the earth to serve as a grounding bypass for electrical malfunctions, lightning striking the roof, things like that. So this is very well utilized apparatus for this purpose, to run this energy at peak efficiency, then to have it run through all of the outlets of the space into the grounding rod up to code is of course the best way to tangibly maintain a containment field of this energy running through an entire space, being grounded into the earth with the copper rod. So that's why, of course, it's really worth diving deep into, be very thorough in that part of the dissertation, because the crucial nature of that has great beneficent implications of having this entire crystalline ratio emanation being grounded through all of the outlets of the space does indeed pilot a tangible energetic containment field, which is basically an engineered hedge of protection or a very high yield dynamic etheric transmutation. Anyway, I think that's enough about that. So now I'll have to, so of course, that's why I illustrate that first before I dive into each power pack, is that once again, I repeat myself because it's quite important to get this through in spite of all the Christianese, which is my joke for the jargon of how I speak on these subjects, is the heat purification emanation charges and purifies, most importantly, the entire crystalline composition so that this can ground into the space to be running a perpetual purified emanation through an entire space, which has a great amount of beneficent applications, which I will omit to get back on topic of cataloging this construct. And I clear my throat. So there are a few things, of course, I'll be discussing before I dive into each power pack, such as these guys right here, which are, once again, the primary wire with an alligator clip seen right here reattached for versatile utilization. So many of these constructs have of course, different applications, such as a copper plate, for example, can be grounded out of this guy. I'll use this guy right here as an example. This is something that recipients of these pyramidal mainframes have done previously, where they take a copper plate and basically plug it right here to serve as a charge plate to carry the current of the apparatus, so they can charge their essential oils, their water, ingestibles, or just other crystals that are loose, for example. That is something that has been quite in vogue in this application. That's why, of course, there's so many of these things for very versatile utilization for the prerogative of the recipient, which I'm wager will be quite vast. So back on topic once again is that it also works as a way to, of course, encourage a direct port to this emanation, which is a very dynamic crystalline apparatus for various constructs such as light blade wands, which of course are another compatible device frequency that can be, for example, utilized with this right here to ground into here like that, so that is now successfully part of the containment frequency, which is making its own dynamic harmonic equilibrium range of the full elemental spectrums, while porting directly onto the primary wire of this light blade wand, for example, to charge the entire apparatus at peak efficiency in tandem with the collective in general of this stationary apparatus. That, of course, most importantly, purifies, harmonizes, and has a safe ground point to ensure the excess energy being charged has a safe outlet for beneficent equilibrium tangible magic, quite simply. The grounding these endeavors cannot be expressed enough to quite simply efficiently make the magic real, far as I'm concerned. So I'll, of course, like I mentioned, be just repeating myself intentionally on many subjects that are very worth the reiteration. So, for example, there are 8 of these guys. So there are 8 on each, there's 2 on each of the terrestrial 4 elemental power packs. So there's 8 of these, as well as a very long one up here, which is quite long, several feet, a good few feet actually, for a very particular application, which I will omit that this will be participating in. And the aspect that's important too is that this long cord right here that's been well wrapped to this point, it's quite extensively long. I won't uncoil the whole thing to stay on topic, but the big aspect that's important there is that it will be hooked up to a certain apparatus, which I'm just going to go ahead and continue on and stay on topic and stay on target, which is not as easy as it seems with such a vast topic to discuss, obviously. And so that will be 8 of these guys, as well as a 9th seen up here, which is going to be quite instrumental, I wager. And without further ado, I think I'm going to dive into the individual catalogs, the power packs. But before I do that, I might as well get this out of the way, get streamlined after this, is the love currency augmentations seen up top on both sides, which are represented right here in the book of Mr. Stephen A. Ross, The Wonderful Wizard of Sedona, which these brass coins, very specifically, it's actually a brass coin, which, like I mentioned in the wire, makes for a very nice earthy yang fiery energy, which is very fantastic. Has been participant in many vibrational engineering endeavors at this point, last couple of years, which has been a lot of fun. And it's become its own prominent modern sigil of magic through repetitive energetic augmentation in wide distribution. Quite literally, these guys are all across the world at this point, in various sacred sites, and in the custody of many practitioners quite literally across the world, which has been a lot of fun, very cool. And the aspect of why this is relevant is that this coin has a timeless message that's really worth exonerating and, of course, amplifying in its own respective morphic field expansion. So naturally, having this coin with its own subroutine augmentation dramatically extends the foray, if you would, of this ambitious endeavor of simply spreading a great message of doing everything with love, in love, and through love. You can read his whole book if you wanted to. And how to do that, of course, is to maintain a beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit. So, of course, that timeless archetypal message has now been set as part of the crystalline ignition sequence of this very vast mainframe. And before I discuss these other things too, which there's a lot of variables to keep the horse in front of the cart here, which takes a great amount of discipline, obviously, I will go ahead and do a brief crystalline composition dissertation about the centrifugal bands around these coins at the apex of the pyramid. So it's a quite simple basic ratio that's been dubbed the miracle ratio based on this feature. So the entire closed loop emanation circuit perimeter is based on the full rainbow spectrum of energy, starting off with the red ray, orange ray, yellow ray, green ray, blue ray, indigo, violet, and so on, with a little pink right there, of course, to have a heavy concentration of the high heart stimulation, which is its own subroutine circuit. Hence, it's been called the miracle ratio because, in theory, having the entire illuminated electromagnetic spectrum of the light being well resonated with does put one in the realm of miracles. Hence, this has been its own platform designation. It's been in wide distribution, many variations, which I will omit because it's clear my throat and stay on target once again. But the aspect that's quite critical about the miracle ratio, it's a certain combination sequence of, like I said, just the entire red ray, orange ray, gold, so the entire spectrum, but it is also subcapacitated by a sequence of golden healer quartz, which serves as an impeccable gold white light high heart source attunement, which is very, very advantageous, self-evidently, to be put the source in sorcery, if you would. So having a clean source attunement as a subcapacitation of the full spectrum range also was indicative of the miracle ratio. Then combining that offset between each of the individual node points would also be rutilated quartz to work as an accelerant of the closed loop circuit to carry the wavelength to a very high premium with bands of rutile in the structure of quartz that works to super amplify other frequencies next to it, and particularly in a closed loop ignition sequence of the full spectrum range, basically. Hence, both coins seen on both sides have been represented face out at the apex of the pyramid with the miracle ratio to maintain that very intensive full light body spectrum emanation embodiment. All right, so that would be the love coins. I guess I'll discuss this next before I go further, apex wise. So between the love coins on the blank sides of the four sides of the pyramid apex would also be a very important crystal named lepidolite, which is well utilized on its very powerful anti-anxiety soothing frequency emanation. Based on its very high lithium potassium content of the elements found in this crystal, it makes for a very outrageously soothing emanation that has become its own platform of the Serenity platform, if you would. Quite simply, as a pretty irreverent joke, I jokingly refer to the commissioning of these purple lepidolite frequency devices like Xanax on a stick based on its vibratory output. Anyway, enough of my whimsical digressions. I must get back to it. Okay, so like I mentioned, this would be the Earth Power Pack designation based on its color range and elemental correspondences seen right here. Clear my throat to get dramatic and get ready for this. So before I discuss the Earth Power Pack, I'll discuss the cores of these devices, which are all completely in common. This is one of the commonalities of the four elemental power packs, which I'll discuss right now to get it out of the way. So the core of this device, before the blade banding and the blade facing is discussed, is all unanimously the same, exactly seen right here for uniform vibrational continuity as a foundational base, independent of the elemental spectrums. So, the wooden core, which is very well concealed in all four devices, is actually that of Sycamore from Sedona, Arizona, from a very particularly healthy, abundant tree that actually is off of Oak Creek towards downtown Sedona that has its root tendrils always drawing from the constant waterway of Oak Creek. So that's a very healthy, abundant tree as an example, which also serves as a carbon-based resonant frequency emanation ally from that sacred one-legged in Sedona, Arizona, which has the purposes, of course, of encouraging a carbon resonance, which of course is compatible with our carbon-based avatars for now, to make a very good, effective transferability of the silica matrices seen right here into the carbon base to make it more tangibly in range resonance, to of course encourage overlap equilibrium alignment, aka make the magic real. So it's a very healthy, happy tree. Like I mentioned, would be the wood range seen right here. Then next to both of these wood ranges, fixed and adhered to the inner core, will be that of selenite. White selenite right here is quite crucial in virtually all light tech for this distinct purpose. So before I discuss the extensive combinations of all these crystals, selenite has a very common denominator feature for a good purpose. So by itself, it's a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra student back to one's godhead, thereby making a very effective way to clear debris between one's higher self and one's conscious self, which is very self-evidently, once again, advantageous for the spiritual adept. To clear the debris between electromagnetic interference between one's conscious self, one's higher guidance, is a very, very great thing, obviously. And with that high frequency induction, also works to purify stagnant energies from top to bottom through divine high yield transmutation, which is very, very amazing by itself. It makes it truly a master healer frequency, but here's where it truly shines. So in all these extensive subroutines of crystals yet to be mentioned, it has a very important purpose of taking this entire crystalline pitch of Earth, for example, and purifying all of these crystals in a closed loop circuit, as well as amplifying all of these crystals, and most importantly perhaps is also bringing harmony and equilibrium to the entire octave range as a whole. So that truly triumphant trifecta of purifying, harmonizing, and amplifying each of these individual node ranges is its own incredible merit worth really diving deep to discuss as a foundational preface for the rest of the construct. So please bear in mind, anything discussed further in these power packs will go through the same closed-loop emanation of amplification, purification, harmonization of each individual elemental spectrum range. And affixed to the selenites are actually quite crucial combinations as well of kyanites and their various spectrums of black, orange, green, and blue. This is where I'll be employing whimsically fast penmanship to do my best to illustrate their rapid transfer ratio capacities. So kyanite, like mentioned, is the most rapid transfer of energy in the mineral kingdom, which works as a very powerful way to reroute and buffer idyllic energy patterns very quickly, which also can serve like another layer of etheric Teflon that is always rerouting, buffering the ideal frequency configuration that is very discouraging for stagnant energies to maintain the field from top to bottom at a very lightning fast, actually quantum speed, lightning fast reaction rate, basically. It gets quite meta, but here's the point, here's the highlights that keep it simple. Black kyanite is the most rapid transfer energy in the mineral kingdom, absolute quick as possible, which serves as an absolute effective contingency surge protector to ensure the entire crystalline ratio is making the Earth absolute quick as possible to make a very dynamic reactive bypass to, of course, encourage the full embodiment of this energy to make a safe route into Earth to be very effective in tangibilizing magic, as well as, once again, like I mentioned, a contingency to mitigate any kind of etheric energetic fryouts, because the ratio of transference is so high yield and grounding into the Earth is absolutely quick as possible. So that's a bread and butter, no matter what variation construct, to have many aspects and beneficence in the concept. Then right here would be orange kyanite, which is a very rapid sacrum transference, which is very effective for the sacral creativity chakra. And of course, a lot of imprintation and negativity are stored in the sacrum, so this rerouting buffering is very effective for limiting beliefs being bypassed and bridged, and one's true essence being really acted from, quite simply. Then the green kyanite is the most rapid heart chakra transfer in the mineral kingdom that successfully bridges past blocks limitations very effectively, very quickly, and of course works in tandem with the entire crystalline ratio to rapidly transfer these energies to look like magic, quite simply. Then blue kyanite down here is a very effective third eye stimulant that is very, very effective for clearing past the right and left hemispherical debris that would be conducive and indicative of the human condition we've all endured pretty much. So what I'm trying to say there too is that it makes for a fantastic third eye stimulant that works very effectively for whole brain thinking by bridging past divisitory thought forms that be preventing the integration of the right and left hemispheres, aka the awakened third eye, based on our divine inherent factory blueprint settings. And so why that's important too is that it takes the entire frequency pitch ranges of each individual elemental spectrum seen here and makes the most effective rapid transference as absolutely quick as possible. And so I'll be discussing the Earth ratio blade band seen right here in a second after I discuss one more common feature between all the power packs. So on the aspect of all these power packs, at the apex of each individual one has a little bolt of fulgurite seen right here. Fulgurite is petrified lightning. That is literally lightning striking sand, carrying the energy of lightning into a silica crystalline resonance, which was very powerful stuff. Hence it's a very powerful cardinal, obviously, storm elemental energy. That is, the common denominator of earth, fire, water, and wind carries the energy of lightning for a distinct purpose of being a very powerful full light body activator from top to bottom. Literally is the power of lightning at lightning fast energy, as well as it was utilized as a traditional shamanic spirit tool by practitioners of antiquity to resonate the frequency of lightning in the system, literally amplified their prayers to lightning frequency capacity for the service of those under their jurisdiction of old times. So it has a lot of lore attached to it, which is very cool, and quite literally is the power of lightning, which is very neat and very applicable for a very dynamic, serious mainframe for a very serious practitioner, quite simply. So now, that's the last common denominator of all the 4 power packs. Now I could finally, without further ado, get into the elemental compositions. So starting off right here will be clear quartz, which is going to be found in each of these power packs individually, because clear quartz quite simply works as the most effective neutral ambient accelerant of other frequencies around it. So of course, in the ignition sequence, having the red jasper right here is the most stable red ray root chakra stimulant in the mineral kingdom. Hence its importance is of the essence to stabilize the earth elemental root chakra, which has a great amount of lore. So obviously I'll say this right now. All these crystals have great amount of lore in the morphic field of human belief history, which I will admit to try to keep it somewhat consolidated, because this will be unavoidably a very long video. But there are certain steps I can take, obviously, to mitigate a long, drawn-out video. And so why I say that, of course, is that I will be intentionally omitting a great amount of magical lore in these crystals that has been quite prolific in the human history of recorded history we can draw upon, just for sensible example. So the aspect right here of, once again, red jasper is the most effective root chakra stabilizer mineral kingdom to effectively stabilize the scaffolding of the nerve ganglia chakra column in the most stable fashion. So another aspect too, there's a lot to discuss in this, like I've mentioned 5 times at least, but the aspect of the stability of each of the elemental power packs will be its own merit that'll be highlighted, but I digress. Hard not to, and there's so much to talk about. So red jasper right here is effectively the most stabilizing root chakra mineral kingdom. Then, like mentioned, clear quartz makes for the most neutral acceleration ambience of the entire sequence, which also puts this emanation in the realm of consciousness-assisted technology of amplifying invocations or prayers or intentions. That could also look like magic, is a big prerogative here too. That's where clear quartz comes in play, to really make a neutral consciousness alignment, integration, to be able to run impulses of higher nature through the apparatus as well, which I'm getting off target. Like I said, probably 12 more times before this is through. It's easy to get on tangents. So back on topic. So that also subcapacitates the frequency going into garnet. Garnet is a classic root chakra crystal of antiquity of relatively hard nature, oftentimes an 8 out of 10 the hardness scale, which of course can really be a big determination on its atomical density being the intensity of the vibration being utilized. So red garnet is an incredible aldemine, very specifically. Is a very fantastic root chakra stimulant. So the big prerogative of the Earth Power Pack is the most stable root chakra stimulant, as well as a very fantastic strong stimulant. Works as a very powerful way to stimulate and stabilize the foundation of the root chakra, which is essentially the Earth encapsulated and intensified as a blade band ratio circuit completing its sequence. Okay, and so next right here is a rather meta, far-out concept, but absolutely quite crucial in effective spirit tool-like technology, if you would, is that of smoky celestial quartz. So smoky quartz, like mentioned previously, is a fantastic rounder of energy, of course, but the celestial growth pattern is what makes this truly a remarkable crystalline ally to be incorporated in the vast network that plays an absolutely crucial role, which I will do my best to keep it sensical because it gets very far up very quickly, unavoidably so. So the celestial growth pattern has a certain resonance with the auric field that works to auto-calibrate the entire crystalline apparatus to whatever auric field it comes in contact with. And what I'm trying to say there in simplistic is that this works as an auto-regulation dimmer switch, if you would, to meet whatever auric field template comes in contact with this emanation, and in real time auto-calibrate the frequency, pitch, ingestibility to the most comfortable, efficient level that will be ingestible by the auric field that is of the essence for rapid, comfortable, magical, miracle transition of energy, transference to, once again, look like a magical miracle or a quantum idyllic alteration, basically. I hope that almost kind of made sense. It's always been a point of contention of mine in these videos to properly address the importance of how metaphysically far out this crystal is, but it is quite critical. But to reiterate and stop my digression, is it does serve an intensive function for the entire crystalline apparatus as a whole to govern the frequency pitch to the most comfortable range of whatever auric field comes in contact with it, which is very, very essential for efficiency, quite simply. Okay, I feel like I had more to say on the subject, but I think that will be enough for now. Okay, so of course, in all of these individual crystals seen embedded in these power packs have somehow, some way been terminated to the primary wire of the copper, brass, and silver that serves as the main vein of the construct to carry the continuity very evenly. And so by mentioning each of these individual crystals, you can think of it as me discussing the organs of this crystalline entity apparatus, and all of them generating significant vibrational compound interest as a tandem or collective or a tribe or a family, basically at this point. Okay. So above the celestial quartz would be another very potent black ray crystal named tektite, which is the product of meteorite impacting sand, which carries a very powerful heaven-to-earth extraterrestrial jolt from the heavens, because based on the impact of meteorite, that vaporization pressure that makes the tektite black glass is literally space glass or space obsidian. So the aspect of black tektite being a very high vibration entry into the earth plane is luckily a very foundational way to raise vibrations from the base scaffolding of the earth stars all the way up to be a very foundational, tangible raising of vibration to increase the vibrational pitch of the light body's activation capacity. So that's a very special frequency right there for space magic. Then above that will be another heavy concentration of red jasper to further double down on the aspect of stabilization of the root chakra, which is absolutely of the essence. When it comes to extensive high-yield energetic vibration engineering amplifications, I consider stability to be absolutely of the essence of crucial, effective, efficient, magical broadcast alterations. So that's why a heavier dose of the red jasper seen here is of the essence, which of course I will keep harping on the stability points of each power pack because they are quite crucial in my humble opinion. Then right here will be a big old bolt of ruby. Ruby, of course, is quite the famous crystal of antiquity, which has been well deified through the ages as a precious stone. So that guy can oftentimes be an 8.5 or 9 out of 10 the hardness scale, which means its dense atomical structure is, bar none, perhaps the most powerful root chakra stimulant in the mineral kingdom based on its corundum structure, which has a bit of titanium mixed into it and rutile. Anyway, digressions galore. But the point too is having the most exorbitant, powerful, enthusiastic root chakra stimulant in tandem with stabilization goes a very long way for a very dynamic, high-yield, earth-centered power pack. Okay, so that would be the earth power pack mentioned right there. Now we're moving on to fire, and this is where it gets a little quicker in the dissertation. I gotta unclip this guy now because I'm going to rotate this guy on the pyramid. So here we go. Now this will be the fire power pack. So starting off with the blade band seen right here will be carnelian in very large dose specimens. Carnelian is a very classic sacrum fire elemental stimulant of great lore and deification, which once again I will omit to stay on target. But the aspect of carnelian also has a very powerful solar plexus, sacrum, and root chakra stimulation that's quite legendary, literally. Then going into clear quartz to neutrally amplify the energy into tiger's eye. Tiger's eye is a fantastic lower 3 chakra stimulant, yet tiger's eye has a particular alignment capacity to actually align the lower 3 chakras impeccably, which works in tandem to govern the excessive yield of the carnelian, which basically be considered like raw fire energy stimulation. Tiger's eye brings a nice sharp coherent focus of lower 3 in tandem, which makes it a very fantastic fire governance, basically, because of course it can be considered that fire out of balance could be perhaps the most dangerous of the elements, for it is inherently destructive. And that's enough philosophy back on cataloging. And so of course, and so that makes the sequence of the fire emanation seen right here. Then the very base of the power pack implementation would be sunstone. Sunstone is a very lovely feldspar-based, earthy-ish kind of based on the feldspar emanation of sunny, fiery energy, hence it's called sunstone. It's a fantastic stimulant of the sacrum and solar plexus, making a very lovely, enthusiastic fire energy, which can also be very enthusiasm generating, like I've implied, and also makes for a very fantastic antidepressant through that walking on sunshine emanation, quite simply, like I carry. So it's a very classic favorite of mine for over a decade for purposes of encouragement, enthusiasm, and it's very, very, very confidence-inducing, all that jazz. Everything that's conducive towards the sacrum and solar plexus of one's fiery capacities. Then right here above that would be fire agate, which is an absolutely crucial placement. So like mentioned about the red jasper, fire agate is the most stabilizing stimulant of the lower 3 chakras of the solar plexus, sacrum, and the root. But having the most stable fire energy in the middle kingdom is its own merit as well, which will play off each other as I continue the dissertation on various stability frequencies on the elemental spectrums. Then right here above the fire agate, the zest for life in the body experience, stabilization of the mineral kingdom, that's a wonder, would be the star argonite right here, which actually is a member of a holy trinity of master healer frequencies I employ quite frequently, which will make more sense as I get to its cousins as well. Vibrationally speaking, not elementally speaking. But the aspect right here of star argonite is a calcium-based full light body activator from top to bottom that works very diligently to clear any patterns of dis-ease found stored in the auric field from top to bottom. So that makes for a very dynamic light body encouraging activator that works very diligently, very gently to dismantle habitual stagnant patterns that manifest as a physical element, quite simply. Hence it's one of the Holy Trinity. Then right here above that would be a raw concentration dose of, once again, golden healer quartz. Like mentioned up here, it does play a bigger role. Golden healer quartz is a quintessential high heart gold white light source attunement frequency, so it felt very appropriate in this composition to incorporate another dose of the central sun emanation alignment right here in its more pristine raw format, as opposed to the rounded bead format seen throughout the entire construct, which is its own merit of energetic efficiency, but having a nice raw chunk of it goes a long way to get a stronger concentration of that gold white light sorcery emanation alignment, which is very advantageous. So moving on to water, seen right here. So the blade band of water starts off with this guy right here of the classic famous emerald. Emerald is another one of those precious stones, just like ruby, that is quite deified and famous as the most impeccable green ray water elemental heart chakra stimulant mineral kingdom, with oftentimes 8.5 out of 10 the hardness scale, which means its dense atomical structure is the ideal heart chakra configuration in a crystalline emanation. Subcapacitated with clear quartz, of course, to carry the energy neutrally, going into its blue ray cousin of the beryl family as well, aquamarine. Aquamarine is a very fantastic 4th and 5th chakra stimulant, and much like the beryl family cousin emerald oftentimes carries an 8.5 out of 10 the hardness scale, which means, once again, its atomical structure is very dense, so very strong, particular color range emanation for the auric field's entrainment. So it makes for a very fantastic, perfect segue of very heavy concentration water of the 4th and 5th with aquamarine, with the heavy concentration of water with the emerald. Then going into clear quartz, into moss green agate. Moss green agate is the most stabilizing green ray water elemental heart chakra stabilization agent in the mineral kingdom, hence of the essence to, of course, have the excessive stimulation of the water of emerald and aquamarine, yet also having the governance to stabilize that stimulation is absolutely of the essence. Hence, there's even further stabilization agents of the water spectrum seen at the apex here, which will be gotten to momentarily. So that's exactly why the aspect of emerald, clear quartz, aquamarine, clear quartz, moss green agate is the water closed loop circuit frequency. And I'm getting verklempt as I'm talking about it. So right here at the very bottom is a very special modern crystal named Larimar in a large dose. Larimar is quite the famous crystal these days because it's relatively new to the scene from 1982. Its discovery in Dominican Republic. But anyhow, the aspect of Larimar is a very fantastic 5th chakra stimulant of that of water and fire, paradoxically, actually. So it has a very powerful, empowering, soothing, calming vibration, which is very effective for being in line with one's truth to generate an oasis of calm of one's sovereign nature, as well as being a very powerful soothing of the mind further through that kind of oasis of calm, divine emanation entrainment. So that makes for a very effective agent to the water power pack. Then seen right here is serpentine of the green range. Serpentine is a very common, thank goodness, stone that's very encouraging to serpentine kundalini activation, of course, which is another indicative pattern of a activated chakra calm light body stimulation. So serpentine is a very fantastic cellular respiration agent as well. And then inside that right there will be turquoise. Turquoise is a very famous crystal, which I, once again, will omit a great amount of lore on that. But the turquoise is a very fantastic elemental 4 terrestrial 5th chakra stabilizer that makes for a very fantastic pranic healing generator, which of course can be conducive to the thyroid's balance, which is the thermostat of the body. Okay, that's a digression. I gotta stick to the cataloging. I can always nerd out on the applications later. But turquoise right here, classic stone of one's wholeness and truth, quite simply, and a fantastic deified Blu-ray beautiful crystal. Then above that would be further stabilization agents of the water range. So the aspect right here of moss green agate is in a heavier concentration seen right here to double down on that vibrational dose seen integrated in the blade band, for that, once again, extra stabilization of the heart chakra. So, of course, why that's so essential to bring up again is that with a great exaggeration, expansion, stimulation, it's always quite prudent to bring a stabilization for easy integration, as far as I'm concerned, for efficiency's sake. Then combining that with blue lace agate right here is a water elemental blue ray water 5th chakra stimulant seen right here to stabilize the 5th chakra, which quite literally is the bottleneck of the energy going through the system, which is absolutely crucial to have an alignment and balance. Hence, I almost went into another thyroid digression. Okay, continuing on. Gotta keep this kind of simple, and God willing, keep this under an hour. Let's see, now I'm gonna go to wind. I'm gonna flip it all the way around this rotation. Okay, do one more rotation right here. All right, so the wind power pack is a very much a higher chakra stimulation point. Get the grounding core out of the way for this last little dissertation power pack. Starting off with clear quartz, once again to be a neutral accelerant of the energy, going into the famous classic lapis lazuli, which is quite the famous crystal and has great amount of metaphysical lore. And once again, say it thrice if I have to, more if I have to. I'm going to omit the bulk of it, because lapis is a fantastic Blu-ray wind elemental 5th and 6th chakra stimulant that is very effective for sovereign capacity to align one with their true divine self and rise above the noise of the false self matrix. So it's very much a sovereign empowerment frequency that's very, very effective for great amount of reasons, which I'll keep it simpler, out of my character almost. Then going into clear quartz, then going into the classic famous amethyst. Amethyst is an excellent purple ray wind elemental, 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stone back to one's godhead, much like selenite that capacity, which of course can be denoted to a violent flame of purification emanation, and quite simply a true staple in any kind of crystalline light worker enthusiast for its divine resonance alignment. Then going into clear quartz, then into, okay, this is a better example for the video right here. This right here will be also purple fluorite. So fluorite plays a very critical role in the mineral kingdom for that of encouraging coherence, which I think is of the absolute essence for efficient magical integration as far as I'm concerned. So the aspect of fluorite makes for a very fantastic bringing chaos into order or harmonization of, or basically bringing cohesive energy, particularly in the purple range, for the third eye chakra of wind elemental spectrum, which is very, very conducive towards whole brain thinking. Just like the blue kind I mentioned before, makes for a very, very cohesive entrainment of the right and left hemispheres, which is very, very effective for embodying coherence, quite simply. So that's why that wind power pack is combining of lapis, clear quartz, fluorite, and amethyst to be a very effective higher chakra stimulant, and in its very balanced manner. So on the blade face right here, oftentimes when I do a deep dive in the water power packs, I get very verklempt to kind of get soothed because little, of course, on the fly digression, but very relevant, is that deep diving into the Larimar particularly brings a very extremely soothing, calming vibration, which kind of gets a little more ethereal towards the end as it starts off with fire, earth, and anyway, that's enough of that. Back on topic again. This right here would be chaurite. Chaurite is a very fantastic purple ray dharmic stimulant in the mineral kingdom that is quite fantastic. Can't really see it in this lighting because it's a little bit dark outside, and I have interior lighting going with this guy being so bright as a background. But this right here is a purple ray crystal that has inclusions of dendric and calcite in the matrix, which what that means is that this, of course, is a purple ray wind stimulant of the 6th and 7th, 8th chakras, yet the dendric, the black ray inclusions, make for its own independent earth star stimulation, which is a very effective way to ground the higher etheric energy into tangibility. As well as the calcite matrix works for a very fantastic neutral clearing of stagnancies from the auric field. And so that's a very, very effective dharmic accelerant to keep one's highest capacity in alignment to one's conscious self, like many other contributing factors. Then right here would be one of the members of the Holy Trinity I mentioned before with star argonite all the way back in fire, that of Tibetan black quartz. Tibetan black quartz comes from Tibet and is a very, very powerful crystal from that region of unsurpassed, disciplined spiritual activations for millennia in recorded history. But the aspect of Tibetan black quartz is a quartz with black inclusions inside it that it makes for a very effective toroidal field full light body stimulator as well to dramatically expand the rooting cords as well as the higher chakras as a very powerful two-way torus, so to speak. Kind of like Yggdrasil, the concept of the world tree of the higher canopy and higher rooting capacity. It makes for a very effective full light body healer that works very diligently, like star argonite, to dismantle patterns of dis-ease found stored in the system from top to bottom by design. So that would be the second member of the Trinity mentioned so far. Then right here would be sugilite. Sugilite is a very fantastic 6th, 7th, 8th wind elemental divine alignment bubble of light generator in the mineral kingdom, which, like I mentioned way too many times now, I'm going to omit a lot of lore on that guy. And so continuing on to the most stable wind elemental frequency mineral kingdom of that of Holly Blue Agate. Holly Blue Agate, that maybe is trade name, but it indeed is a violet ray agate that is the most stabilizing of the 6th and 7th chakras. Hence, a large specimen has been employed here because stabilization of the higher mental faculties is very crucial. And that's pretty self-evident saying that. But having a lovely, it's a relatively rare specimen because it only comes from one mine that's been well mined out at Northern Oregon. But luckily, I have the specimen handy for this guy, so now it's been employed for this construct's efficient stabilization of the 6th and 7th chakras. Then going into scolecite, seen right here, which is a quintessential white ray crystal of divinity, utilized quite efficiently for many different divinity platforms, and is a very effective storm elemental, even though it's in the wind power pack. 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakra stimulant. It brings extreme soothing to the higher self perspective, kind of like a witness self generator that transcends the limitations of the finite ego-mind identity's filtration perception. What I'm trying to say there, it's also a very powerful, blissful, soothing, divine alignment frequency, to keep it relatively simple. Okay? And that would be the wind power pack. Okay. Now, down here, so with all that discussed thus far of earth, fire, water, and wind of the 4 terrestrial elemental power packs, I'm going to circle back to the pink ray love power pack, which we consider the ether or the 5th element, if you would. Starting off with, once again, root-related chords to make a massive intensification of love, which is always a good thing. So it also the clear quartz with the rutile works as a neutral carrier of this entire base lateral band to be a conjoining feature all grounded into the elements. So of course, by design, everything in moderation except for love is the foundational preface of that concept right here of this installation. Then going into the classic and thank goodness common and famous rose quartz as an impeccable high heart pink ray divine love alignment frequency. Then going into, once again, quite crucial for this purpose, golden healer quartz, which is the quintessential high heart gold white light source attunement frequency resonance, which is very, very, very self-evidently crucial for the concepts of sorcery, if you would. And then from that golden healer quartz goes into kunzite. So kunzite, much like lepidolite mentioned up here, is a very high lithium-bearing crystal of the pink ray, which brings extreme heart-soothing vibrations in the mineral kingdom. So having a very soothing love vibration is very advantageous for aspects of healing. Because to put it simple, at the end of the day, in its most simple form, I find every element in somehow, some way is a lack of love manifesting. So having the most soothing alignment of love frequency here is very, very, very advantageous as well. So then it goes into the root-weighted quartz once again to amplify the sequence, into rose quartz, into golden healer quartz as a offset subcapacitation to bring gold white light source attunement resonance, and so on until it conjoins and completes its circle through the entire base of the lateral band of the love ratio. And by golly, definitely did not do it yet. Okay. It was concealed underneath this primary wire right here, but there is one more auxiliary apex band right here at the very, very top of the ignition sequence that plays quite the crucial role that has been tailored for the specifications of the recipient and his life's work endeavors. Okay, starting off with, I'm going to start from, let's see, the best angle to move this guy. Okay. So this right here is green lepidolite, which is a green ray variation of the purple lepidolite mentioned before, both sharing a very high lithium-potassium composition, just with slight different elemental oxidization. So obviously, the purple lepidolite can be associated more with the range of wind, the mental calm soothing. This green lepidolite has more of a deeper heart chakra green ray soothing of the heart capacity, which is very, very nourishing for traumatic stress patterns and covering both bases in one tandem. And to further, ironically enough, amplify soothing vibrations would be root-weighted quartz seen right here. I just laugh because it's just kind of paradoxical almost to amplify love and amplify soothing. But anyhow, that's the design. Then going into the third member of the Holy Trinity of crystal I mentioned, of green seraphinite, seen right here in bead format around this entire perimeter. So seraphinite is a green red crystal named after the seraphim archangels. That is perhaps one of the absolute premier master healer frequencies in the mineral kingdom that I employ quite religiously for utilitarian positive effect for a very good reason. The seraphinite, just like the Tibetan black quartz and the star argent I mentioned previously, has a very dynamic full light body activation from top to bottom, and just like the other two mentioned previously, has a particular penchant for dismantling patterns of dis-ease found from top to bottom, which is very, very effective for positive vibrational healing transfer capacity. Then going into, once again, Golden Healer course to further octavely align the green ray concentration towards high heart source alignment, which is a common feature with the apex band at the bottom, as well as technically the last apex band up here, laterally speaking, having a very strong source foundational resonance attunement. Then going into turquoise once again, because of course, like mentioned before in the water power pack, turquoise is an absolutely essential fifth chakra stimulant of great acclaim and legend for very good reasons. So having the aspect of the fifth chakra very well fortified with that much soothing healing capacity is also a very powerful full pranic stimulation that is very effective for transferability through the entire light body, particularly in aspects, once again, I reiterate, the energy of this coalescence literally bottlenecks right at the neck, quite literally, before it condenses up towards the higher chakras, basically. So having the fifth chakra further stabilized with this ambitious endeavor was quite of the essence for its longevity purpose. And that would continue the sequence like so until it conjoins back here. And like I mentioned, the love currencies are the very apex with the miracle ratio, as well as the purple lepidolite. All right, so 56 minutes later, this thing has finally been fully cataloged. So, of course, as a comprehensive capstone to the concept, is that after that whole dissertation, it's been very much engineered to be a very dynamic, full light body activator from top to bottom with nothing unaddressed, obviously, very comprehensive, immersive construct. And it's, of course, designed to be living its life, its best life, on a salt lamp to capture and capitalize the emanation of purification here and to have the emanation purify the entire apparatus as it's quite literally grounded into a space or grounded into other things where, of course, the prerogative of the recipient will govern that of where it's utilized, such as this whimsical Ark of the Covenant I use as a paperweight. You never know. There's even a crystal in there, of course. So there you go. That's the big aspect right there of those guys. And its dynamic, versatile application utilization is quite vast, more than I could probably ever express in a under-hour video. And that would be it. Once again, that would be the comprehensive tour of a stationary light tech mainframe named Equilibrium. That is quite vast as I sit back actually and take it all in myself during this filming. All right, well, 1,000 blessings and may the force be with us all.